love got to do with it, right? And so I've been working on my Tina Turner moves, and I'm really excited for that. You should not be excited about that, but anyway, I'm kidding. We won't. The wig. I need the wig and the platform shoes. That's what I'm after. Anyway, here's what I want to invite us into again, and it's this. It is we have an opportunity for 6 weeks to engage with people in our lives who maybe don't know Jesus, who maybe aren't participating in a church somewhere, who are people in your life that you would love to see just have spiritual conversations with. And so we've worked really hard to prepare a 6-week journey for a small group of people that you get to recruit, you get to decide, you get to invite, you get to determine how you want to meet, where you want to meet, when you want to meet, and we're going to equip you to do that. Here's why. I hear a lot from Christians very often, right? That the world just needs Jesus. The world needs to change, and everybody needs to live different, and all of these kind of conversations. Have you had any of those? Have you heard any of those? Right? Well, one of the reasons that we do this is because we believe that there are a lot of people in the world who might be skeptical of Christianity, but they're very interested in having spiritual conversations. And what we want to do is we want to set a table somewhere. We want to sit in a living room or even a Zoom call, whatever we need to do to engage in those spiritual conversations. And so this is my invitation to you to really think about leading a small group of people. And when I say leading, really it's just hosting a discussion. It's hosting a place and a time, and it's just facilitating some sort of conversation with people. I think all of us can learn how to love a little bit better. And what better way to learn to love than from the words of Paul in 1 Corinthians, the love chapter, right? Where he tells us what love is, and he also tells us what love is not, what to embrace and what to resist. And I think our world could all benefit, everybody in the world could benefit from some of those discussions. Do you agree? So would you prayerfully consider who in your life you can invite and begin a spiritual conversation with? We will equip you. We will help you. If you're interested in knowing what that looks like, Pastor Craig's going to be over here in room 112 right after we're done, and he can help you do that. Does that make sense? Yes? Yeah. And I would say this. If you catch yourself just incredibly frustrated with what's going on out there, this might be your opportunity to do something about it. All right? So let's stand. Let's worship together. Let's celebrate all the goodness of God.
Streams of abundance. Your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. With all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God.
Man, I hope so. It's good to hear you singing this morning. Go ahead and have a seat. And we will continue on with our time together this morning. Man, I am so glad you're here, whether you're with us in the room, whether you're with us online. Man, thanks for being here. And if you have been here for a while and we haven't had a chance to connect with you in person, maybe I've been able to write you an email or a note or send you a text. We would love to meet you in person, and we do that once a month, and we're going to do that today. So afterwards, hopefully you have made plans to join us in the fireside room for Mountain View Essentials, and just get to meet us in person as a staff, get to know our mission, and how to take some next steps to get plugged in here at Mountain View. If you're new with us here and you haven't at least said hello on a card, there are some tall red cards if you're in the room. If you're online with us, there's a link that you can click, and we'd love to say hello to you. I'd love to reach out to you this week. So you can fill out the card. There are boxes on the posts on the way out in the foyer. You can drop those in, or if you'd rather, there's a QR code on the back that you can fill out and say hello there. Thanks.
One of my favorite sayings is, where two or three are gathered, there's a bureaucracy, right? Usually it's hard to get things done in a large community, and that's true in church as well. Like everyone has opinions, we'll disagree about anything, we'll split over anything. Churches have split over the color of carpet, over whether or not you should have instruments, right? There's tons of things that divide us. And so where we're going to start today, it's truly amazing that without even meeting, so many of us agreed on one thing together. Without even having a committee or without even gathering, calling all the churches together, many of us have all come to the same conclusion, and that's kind of miraculous to me. And that's where we're going to start today. And here's what it is. Here's what this conclusion is that we somehow came up with without ever meeting. It's that we no longer will follow the 10 commandments. We would like to follow the 9 commandments, okay? So somehow, we all decided this, okay? And even if you're not a Christian, you probably have at least heard this phrase, the 10 commandments, or you've seen in media or movies some sort of reference to the 10 commandments. And just a little mini recap, right? God chose one nation, one family, one people group to be his blessing to the earth, to reconcile all people to God. And that nation ended up in Egypt and ended up enslaved, and God called Moses, right, to rescue them out of Egypt. And then they went to Mount Sinai, and the people didn't know how to live life. And so they just did what they knew from Egypt. They started making idols to God, doing all these things. And so Moses encountered God, and he came down with the 10 commandments, right? But we've all agreed, 9 commandments. That's all we need to follow. And so let's just run through them really quick, right? No other gods before me, no graven images or idols. Do not use the Lord's name in vain. Honor thy father and mother. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not covet. Now, there's different levels in this room, right? Some people, this might be new information. That's totally okay. And you're like, that's interesting. Some of you in here are like, I know one's missing, but I'm not sure which one it is. And then others of you know exactly which one's missing, and you're like, I know exactly where this conversation's going today. And no matter where you're at, it's totally fine. One thing I want to point out before we start to talk about, the decision we made, is, can you imagine compromising any of these? Can you imagine changing any of these? Can you imagine just even kind of making some of these have some leeway or metaphor, like no idols? Would you guys be okay if we started setting up a little Jesus idol? We'll carve him out of wood, and we'll feed him and dress him, and somebody will take care of him every day. You guys would think I was really strange if we started doing that. So 9 out of 10 were like, you have to follow, no matter what, and we're not going to budge on them. But somehow, one has been demoted. So somehow we all got together, and instead of being a commandment, we demoted it to the code of biblical suggestions, all right? We put it in there, so I have it here for you guys. We updated the language, and we put it in the Code of Biblical Suggestions, right? It's Article 55:2:1. And this is how it goes. Keep the Sabbath holy, if you can, or take a nap, or do an early morning devotional or something, right? When we talk about Sabbath, when we talk about rest, often we don't honestly really know how to do that. We don't really even know what Sabbath is. That might sound like a foreign word to some people, or maybe we've heard it our whole lives, but we're not even sure what it really means. All we know is it's a thing that people used to do, and now it's something like this. So in this series that we're in, The Intentional Life, we're talking about how life just comes at you in waves. And you can either just react to the chaos of life, or you can be intentional with your decisions, and those two ways of doing life have very different outcomes. And we know this, right? If any of us have gotten our money in order, we know that we had to decide intentionally what we were going to do with it. Because if we don't, we just look at our bank account, right, students, and we go, how do I have 50 cents left in my bank account? We know this when it comes to our spouses, right? Husbands and wives, you can give me the feedback. You guys can be the judge of this. But the women in the room, if your husband does something intentionally, it means so much more than if it's randomly. Is that true? I think I could do the same date with my wife, but if I planned it and I told her about it and it was intentional, it would mean so much more to her than if it just happened randomly. And it's because when we do things with intention, it takes foresight, it takes prioritization. It means that we have to say no to some things to value something. And so when we live our life intentionally, we reap a lot of rewards from that. And the same is true of our faith, right? We can live our faith just totally random and just kind of have these moments, just doing things sometimes that make us feel connected and close to God and being the person that He's calling us to be. Or we can be intentional about it. And so here's what I want to talk with you guys about today. I believe that most of you are already close to keeping the Sabbath day holy. And I think if you'll add a little bit of intention to your practice, not only can you be a 10 commandment follower again, but even more than that, I think you can experience the true rest that God wants for you in your life. And so here's the question that we have to answer today. Why do we all have this one exception as Christians? If 9 out of 10 of them we say you gotta follow, and 9 out of 10 of them we're not willing to budge on, then why is there this one that we don't have space for? So here's some of my ideas. Here's some of the things I have to offer that might be some of those reasons. Number one is because we have stuff to do, all right? In fact, our culture in some ways values this hustle, right? This hard work mentality, and there are good things from that, but sometimes we feel like we have to fill every moment with something. And that comes for some different reasons. Some of that comes from this drive to make money, maybe out of greed or out of security, and we're not alone in that. I have a scripture up here just from Amos. See, the people of Israel, they didn't always follow Sabbath really well, and so the prophet Amos, he kind of is mocking the people when he says this about them, as he's critiquing them, how they have failed to live up to who God wants them to be. He says, he's quoting them, he's kind of mocking what they say. When will the new moon be over that we may sell grain, and the Sabbath be ended that we may market wheat, skimping on the measure, boosting the price, and cheating with dishonest scales, buying poor with silver and the needy for a pair of sandals, selling even the sweepings with the wheat, right? They're still following it because culturally it was significant to them. But they can't wait for it to be over because they've got things to do. They've got money to make. They've got their schemes to get back to. And so we go back to that list. But so number one, we got stuff to do. Sometimes that's driven out of self-worth or greed or control that we just got to be working all the time. For others of us, we have real hurt in our life and we can't stop moving because then we got to deal with that stuff. And so we just find a way to just keep the mind busy, Keep the ears listening to something. Keep the hands moving, right? Because we know if we stop, then we have to deal with the real hard things in life. And so some of us, we got stuff to do. We got to keep moving. For some of us, it's a appearance thing, right? We got to look like our life is fun and full and always has something good going on in it. Number two, this reason why maybe we make this one exception is Christians change the day, right? So a traditional Sabbath, as the Jews celebrated it, was Friday at sundown to Saturday at sundown. And then early in Christian history, the church said, well, we gather on Sunday for the Lord's Supper and to celebrate, and so we're just going to move it to Saturday to Sunday. And so throughout history, since we already changed it once, maybe it lost some of its sting. Maybe we're just like, well, it already changed, so who cares, whatever. Like, we don't need to follow it anymore. Number three, Jesus confused us, I think, a little bit on this topic, all right? Because he did some things in his life, and he did some teachings that left us confused about maybe what he thought of the Sabbath, right? Often we saw him and the religious leaders of the day butting heads over the Sabbath because they meticulously wanted to say, well, that's work, you can't do that, and Jesus liked to just break all these traditions that they held. Jesus referred to himself as rest. He said, come to me and I will give you rest. In the Gospel of John, we see Jesus heal a man on the Sabbath, and then he gets into an argument with the Pharisees, and he says, God's still at work, and you can't even see it. And so Jesus did all these things that kind of confuse us about Sabbath and rest, and what does this mean? And yet, I very much believe that Jesus himself practiced Sabbath. I believe that he observed Sabbath every week. So what do we do with all that? Some of us, it's confusing the Old Testament and the New Testament. And it's complex how to navigate. Well, there's a lot of laws in the Old Testament, and I know we don't have to follow them all. And so which ones do I still pay attention to? Which ones do I not? And it's honestly just too confusing, and we just set it aside. No, I don't need that. And then for some of us, there's a real heart challenge, which is that we just like to orient our lives around ourselves instead of God. That we're happy to fit in God where we can fit him in, but if we actually have to orient our life around him, well, that's just too much of an inconvenience. That's just unrealistic. We couldn't do that. The example I like to use sometimes with students is things that we really love, we make time for. I'm a huge Oregon State Beaver fan, like I have been my whole life. And so my Saturdays in the fall are oriented around Oregon State football, right? My wife and I, we intentionally on Sunday nights plan our week schedule. And when the fall hits, I'm like, listen, the game's at this time. This is where I'm going to be. This is where I'm going to be watching it. What do we have going on? What do you need done? What do we need to do? And you can guarantee I'm going to schedule my week so that I'm ready to watch that game. What we care about, we will orient our lives around. And for some of us, we just haven't prioritized God in that way. And the last one, and this is the one that I want to spend time talking with you about today, is I think for some of us, we just have a bad theology or we have a bad definition of rest. Right? We don't know what to do with rest. We think rest is sleeping, or we think rest is a nap, or we think rest is what you do when you're dead, and so we don't know what it even means. We don't even know the value behind it. And so that's the conversation I want to have today. Is what is a good definition? What's a good theological frame for this idea of rest? Because I think if we get that, it'll make a huge difference in our life, and we can see what God has in store for us. And so what I'd like to do today, like so many people do when they want to understand who God is let's go to the very beginning. Because I think in the creation story, we see exactly who God is, what he's about, what he's like, what's valuable to him. And it will teach us something about ourselves. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 1. But before we start reading, here's what I want to tell you. Everything God does in creation is with intention. Everything God does in creation is with intention, right? We're talking about this intentional life. By definition, God took chaos and ordered it. Everything that he does in creation is with intention. And so let's read verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Intention. See, I think before we can understand rest, we have to understand the story that God is telling. We have to understand what God intended to make. See, too many of us, we're trying to tell the story of heaven and hell. You might have said, in the beginning, God created heaven and hell. And so every story that we try and tell people is about, do you know where you're going? Are you going to go to the right place, or are you going to go to the wrong place? And I'm not standing up here trying to tell you that hell isn't a thing in the Bible, but it's not in Genesis. You can't find it in Genesis anywhere, because everything God did with intention. And what did God do in verse 1? He said, in the beginning is the heavens and the earth. Because the creation of the world was not about testing humans to see if they would be the good ones or the bad ones. The beginning of creation was about God making a place and making a creation to be with and to spend time with and to create with and to have life with. And so in the beginnings, he made the heavens and the earth. We're going to look at the next chunk of verses, but we're not going to read them all because that would be boring and you guys would just be watching me read a lot of verses. But I want to look at them intentionally because everything God does in creation is intentional. So let's look in verse 2. Verse 2 says this, the earth was formless and empty, and the darkness covered the deep waters. In verse 2, we learn two things about the creation story. We learn, one, that whatever is there, the chaos, it has no form. No form of it exists. It's just absolutely chaotic. And it is empty. There is nothing there. And so on days 1, 2, and 3, what's God going to do? He's going to form it. And on day 4, 5, and 6, what he's going to do? He's going to fill it. And so we have this space that is formless and empty, and God, who is a God of intention, he forms it and fills it. And so on day 1, he separates light and dark, and he forms the day and the night. And on day 2, he separates the waters, and he forms the sea and the sky. And on day 3, he gathers the waters, and he creates land and sea. Are you guys catching that everything God does in creation is intentional? And then days 4, 5, and 6, he fills the day and night with stars and heavenly hosts. And day 5, he fills the sea and the sky with creatures. And day 6, he filled the land with creatures. And like God does, he saved the best for last. And he made humanity. Because the story of creation was always a story of God creating humanity to share relationship, to be with them, to live with them together. And then we get this in Genesis chapter 2. It says, on the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation. So he rested from all his work. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because it was the day when he rested from all his work of creation. One of the things that's interesting to me about this creation story is that we always identify with God as a creator, right? I guarantee you have either said it yourself or you've stood next to someone in a prayer circle and they said, Creator God, right? They addressed him, Creator God. We look at God and his creating ability and we connect to it. When we have kids, we might be like, oh, I can understand God more because he's a creator, or maybe we're artistic or musical and we make something and we're like, oh, that's like God. And we feel connected to him because we're creators like him. But I've never heard someone in a prayer circle say, oh, rester God. Oh, God of rest. Yet here in the creation story, we learn that he is not only a God of creation, he is a God of rest. And just like we connect to him in our ability to create, we also connect to him in our ability to rest. But what does it mean to rest? Well, in the Genesis story, we actually get two instances of rest. We get two ways that God tells us what rest is. And the first one is what we just read. And this kind of resting is to stop working, right? It's to stop the labor. To stop working is to rest. And the second one comes a little bit later in Genesis chapter 2. If you didn't know this about Genesis chapter 1, 2, and 3, we get two creation stories, one that's about the cosmos and one that's about man and woman. One that's about the grand, one that's about the particular. And so in the first story, we get God who creates the cosmos and he rests from work. And in the second story, we get a different kind of rest. See, in the second story, we see that the earth is kind of desolate and there's not really a lot there. It's just kind of empty and dry. And then God makes man, and he's looking around and he goes, this isn't the right place for man to be, just out here in nothing. There's just nothing out here. And so this is what it says, all right? We get two instances where God says that God put man into the garden. And the first one comes in verse 8. Then the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and he placed the man he had made there. And then in verse 15, the Lord God placed the man in the garden of Eden and tended him to watch over it. So why do we have these two verses, 7 verses apart, saying the same thing? Well, because they're different words. And the first one just means that God put the man in the garden. And the second word means that he rested him. It's literally the word, he rested him in the garden. And so we get these two definitions in Genesis 2 that rest is stopping from work, but it's also being placed into the life of the garden. And so rest is, yes, pausing, yes, taking a break, yes, stopping what we're doing, but it's also experiencing garden life. And if I had to say exactly what that means, experiencing garden life, it's enjoying God, it's enjoying others, it's enjoying his creation. That's garden life, right? We know about garden life. We talk about garden life all the time. The scriptures talk about garden life all the time. The tabernacle, the temple, they're all designed to look like the garden. Because everybody's like, we got to get back to the garden. The end of Revelation is about a city that's in a garden. We've written hymns like in the garden. And the reason that we keep saying this idea of garden is because we know that's what perfection looks like. That's what flourishing looks like, to be with God and with others and in his creation. And so I think a good working theological definition of rest is stopping work and experiencing garden life. This is what rest is. And so now that we have a better understanding and a better theology of rest, how do we add intention to our practice? And I want to just share with you guys a little bit of kind of what I've done in my own life and how this has made a difference. See, Israel understood that part of God was rest. And so they had this 10 commandment. They had this sacred weekly rhythm where they would rest and they would stop work and they would enjoy garden life. And because I believe a lot of us are already close, here's kind of my challenge to be intentional for you. You already prioritize a holy day with community and worship, and so make it 24 hours, right? You're already here. You probably went to bed at like 10 or 11 or 12, and some of you might go out to lunch with your spouse or friends or family, and if you do that, you're already at like 16 hours, right? I think sometimes we think of Sabbath as being home and sleeping and not talking to anyone and not laughing or having any fun. But Jesus practiced the Sabbath. And when we look at Jesus on the Sabbath in the scriptures, where do we see him? Never at home. Always in the community, always going to synagogue, always talking with other people. And so you guys are already doing so much of this. And so my challenge to you is if you're doing 14 hours, Do 18 hours, do 20 hours. Try and get to 24 hours. Number 2, create a list of examples of garden life in Genesis. Walking with God and others in His creation, how do you practice those things already? And what I mean is, when you stop work and when you're flourishing, what does that look like? What are the things that you already do with your friends, your family, that you know, man, this is what God intended. This is what rest looks like. My family, we wanted to prioritize some family time, and so we had a tradition that we've started for 4 years now called Family Movie Night. And so we take turns every week, and we switch the pick, and you get to pick what's for dinner that night, and you get to pick the movie, and then we eat dinner together, we put the phones away, and it's just all about us spending time together. And we laugh, and we fight, and but we have a good time, and we submit to one another, right? Like, I have to watch the movie that one of my kids has picked the last 4 times in a row. But we practice putting each other first. And this is garden life to us. We start dinner off and we pray together and we eat together and we have fun together. And it's like, man, this is what God intended. So what are those things? Like, I would challenge you, make a list of what those things are this week. And then number 3, create a list of things that prevent you from stopping work or from garden life. So for some of you, you're the type of people that you just got to be working all the time. So what are those things that make you just have to keep working? Make a list of those things that just get in the way from you being able to stop. Maybe it's a mindset, maybe it's a habit you have, maybe it's a rhythm or a practice you have, but make a list of those things. Others of you, it's not so much stopping work, but you have things that stop you from enjoying garden life. So for me, this is technology. I read a really great book called Everyday Sabbath, and it was about technology addiction. And one of my favorite things from that book is there's this section that talks about why we like to interface with technology rather than people. And what they say is when you're interfacing with technology, so whether you're watching Netflix, YouTube, the news, you're on the computer, whatever it is, when you're interfacing with technology, if you don't like something, or something's awkward, or something offends you, or whatever, you're just uncomfortable, you just go to the next thing. You change the channel, you get out of that show and pick a new one, you swipe to the next video. It's a very easy exit if things aren't entertaining you or making you happy or going the way that you want. Now, if I meet with somebody for coffee and I want to interface with a human and things start to get awkward or I don't like how they're going or I feel offended, that's a hard exit, right? Unless you want to just get up and walk out of the coffee shop without saying anything, there's more at stake in those relationships. And even though it's easier and maybe happier and more comfortable to interface with technology, it's never as meaningful as interfacing with other human beings. But often we just go back to this because it's more comfortable and more happy. And so for my Sabbath, I have shut my phone off. You could look at it right now. Every app is closed. I'll click on it. It will not open because my phone has a setting that they just all shut off for 24 hours. And so for me personally, in order to do this, in order to enjoy garden life and to stop work, I've had to make that adjustment. And I just encourage you guys to make a list of the things that prevent you from stopping work and living garden life. And then when you know what helps you stop work and live garden life, and you know what hinders you from stopping work and living garden life, then do it. Then make a plan and execute. You might actually have to put some effort in. You might have to do some things Saturday morning or Friday night so that you can actually get ready to enjoy that time and prioritize that time. And then the last thing I would say is, don't get too lost in the details if you want to try this. See, Jesus understood stopping work and living garden life. And that's why he always got into fights with the Pharisees. They were really concerned with what exactly stopping work meant. So they were always at him about, is that work? Is that work? Is that work? It was all just about being really legalistic about the list of what's allowed and what's not allowed. See, Jesus understood that true rest, the rest that is who God is stopping work and garden life. And so when he crossed somebody on this earth who wasn't experiencing garden life because they were possessed or because they had a disability, what did he do? He brought the garden life to them. And so along the way as you practice this, don't get caught up in the legalism of this as if you have to do it right to be approved by God. But don't make excuses for yourself either. Prioritize God, stop working and experiencing the garden life that he has for you. One of the quotes that I really like that I threw up here is, and I'm just going to read the quote, is that more than the Jews kept the Sabbath, it was the Sabbath that preserved the people of Israel. Sabbath isn't something that we do because if we do it right and we follow it the right way, God will then love us. It's something we do because it makes us like God. It's actually a part of who he is and who he made us to be. Up here, I have a traditional Sabbath schedule according to tradition. Now, this isn't in the scriptures, but over history, the Jewish people developed traditions for how they would celebrate Sabbath. And so I just want to share it with you so you can get an idea. And this is not like exact. This is my version of just trying to make this accessible to you guys. And so it'd be like on Friday at 1 to 5, you might clean the house and prepare the food for your Sabbath period. From 5 to 7, you would light a candle and say a blessing and a prayer, and you would have a special family dinner. And when I say special family dinner, I don't mean like, coat and tie and nobody laughs or tells a joke. I mean like this is your best meal of the week. If you guys as a family have a best meal of the week, like this is the best night of the week for dinner, you should make that on your Sabbath night. And then it would just be family time, go to bed. Saturday morning, there would be waking up, study, and prayer. And then from 10 to 3, it's your faith community. It's going to synagogue. It's being with the people in your community, enjoying their company, worshiping together. And then 3 to 5, there was a candle lit, a traditional wine, and sweet spices. They would end the time of Sabbath on something sweet, right? Because God is sweet and he is good. And so I think all of us could make things like this in our life. I want to leave you guys with this story thinking about Sabbath. My family, we like to road trip. Do we have any road trippers out there? You can raise your hand if you're a road tripper. And I have a picture here of a road trip we went on probably like 4 years ago, I think. And I really like road trips. I just love being with my family in that environment. And if you've ever done a road trip, you know that it's all over the place, right? You laugh, you cry, somebody throws up, you forgot something, you got to make a stop. It's just complete chaos, but it's great. And if you do them enough, you develop traditions. And so, we have places that we like to stop. We stop at every Costco on I-5 that kind of makes sense. And we fill up gas, and we walk around the store, and we eat a cheap lunch, and occasionally we find some Costco merch that we like to buy. And so that's something we do. We go to In-N-Out. We stop, at quite a few of them on the way down, because my in-laws live in San Diego, so, it's a tough destination to have to travel to. And then there's Love's, right? And if you're an adult, there's nothing cool about Love's, right? There's nothing good about Love's, necessarily. And if you don't know what Love's is, right, it's just like this super gas station convenient store place where you can get, like, anything in the world there. But our kids love going to Love's because they always have, like, off-brand Pokemon stuffies. and it's like everything there is cool to them. But, we get to Love's, and I remember this specific moment on a road trip. We get to Love's. You got to go to the bathroom, which is chaos because there's a bunch of people there. And then we let everyone in our family, buys their favorite snack and gets, a drink that they like. And then we're sitting in the car, And I have to tell you, for me personally, this is just like one of the sweetest moments in my life. Because I'm sitting in my car, and I'm just looking at my family, and everybody's eating their snack, which is kind of a part of their personality, and it's hot out. But to me, it's like, it's everything. Like, to me, it's the sweetest moment of my life. And when I think of that moment, I think of these car rides. They're a lot of work. They take a lot of work. But I've never been more at rest in my life. See, sometimes we struggle with rest because we pin it against work. But it's stopping work and it's experiencing garden life. And sometimes that garden life means that we're out and about and we're doing things just like Jesus was. But we're always bringing people back to what God made in the very beginning. The way that we were always supposed to see life with him. And so as you try this, you may have things that go on. You may have somebody ask you to help you with something or help you move, or you may have a kid or a grandkid with a sports game or all these things. And the idea is not to get caught up in what's work and not work. It's bring the garden wherever you're at, wherever you go. And you can do that as long as God's there and people are there and you're in his creation. And so my encouragement to you guys is to realize that what that rest is comes from who God is. And when we experience that, we understand what it means to be human and the way that he meant us to be. Every week at Mountain View, we have a time where as a community, we celebrate the Lord's Supper together, we pray together, and we sing about who he is and what he has done. And so in a moment, I'm going to share some of the words from the Last Supper that Jesus shared. And then I'm going to invite you, if you're ready, to participate in that Lord's Supper with me and together. And over these next few minutes, you can take that time to huddle up and tell the story of communion together. You can find somebody to pray with. You can sit and listen and ask God, where are you leading me? What do you want me to do? But I promise you what we're about to do right now that we do together, this is rest. This is what God has in store for us. And so the night the Lord Jesus was betrayed, after giving thanks, he broke the bread and he gave it to his disciples, saying, "This is my body broken for you." And then he took the pitcher and he poured the wine into a cup and he said, "This is my blood poured out for you." And he said, "This is the sign of the new covenant. Not that you are just saved like their ancestors were from Egypt, but you are saved from sin and from evil and from death." And that was their story, and that is our story, and that is the table that Jesus invites us all to. And so as you guys are ready, feel free to take communion, pray. You guys are welcome to get up whenever you're ready.
sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never want to leave. I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything more than anything that you can do. I just want you. I'm caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything more than anything that you can do. I just want you. And I'm sorry when I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I just sang another song. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. And I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you.
Will you stand and sing with us?
Caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. Caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything more than anything that you can do. I just want you. I just want you. Nothing else. Nothing else.
what are the steps that you will take to experience the garden life and create intentional rest? Christian gave us this awesome list. I encourage you, if you're online, screenshot it, take a picture of it. We'll repost it on social medias for you as well. If you're in the house with us, go ahead, take a picture. You also have a card on your seat. Take that, pray about it. What does it look like for you to take intentional rest? Don't worry about the day. Don't worry about the time. Just choose it and be intentional. If you are here, join us for Mountain View Essentials over here in the fireside room. We want to connect with you and just help you take your next steps here at Mountain View. And then if you have filled out a card and you are interested in hosting a group, please meet Craig in room 112. And then if you're online with us, email him at craig@mvcclive.com. He'd love to connect with you that way. On that note, let's go out singing today.